simple mechanic in a quiet town is offered the power to change the world, wealth, immortality, anything he desires, by an alien queen who's crossed galaxies just to find him. But instead of taking power, he makes a wish no one expects. A wish that shakes empires, starts an invasion, and transforms the future of two civilizations. What does he ask for? Not control, not riches. He asks for her. This isn't just science fiction. It's a story about love, identity, and choosing connection over power. Buckle up. This is the wish that rewrites the stars. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move toward this wonderful story. Owen Hartley lived a quiet life in the small town of Everdell. Most people knew him as the guy who could fix anything with a motor. His hands were always stained with grease and his workshop smelled like oil and warm metal. It wasn't much, just a converted shed at the back of his late father's house. But to Owen it was home. He spent his days repairing cars, lawnmowers, tractors, whatever the townspeople needed. He didn't ask for much. A thank you was enough. Most nights, he worked late not because he had to, but because he liked the silence. That night started like any other. The soft yellow light of the workshop hummed gently as Owen wiped sweat from his brow and leaned over the hood of a rusted blue pickup. The radio on the shelf beside him played a soft tune from a distant station, static crackling faintly under the music. Then, without warning, the music cut out, replaced by a loud burst of static. Owen flinched and turned to look. The radio began to spit out garbled noises, like whispers trying to form words but failing. Then the lights flickered once, twice, and finally dimmed to a low glow. Owen frowned, wiping his hands on an old rag. Must be the grid acting up again, he muttered. Everdell wasn't known for having the best power infrastructure. He reached for the garage door button, hoping to check if the whole street was affected. But as the door creaked open, he froze. Outside, the world had changed. The entire street was bathed in a strange, glowing lavender light. It wasn't coming from any lamp or car. It seemed to pour down from the sky itself. The stars were hidden behind a curtain of light that shimmered like soft silk in the wind. His neighbors' houses sat in eerie silence, their windows dark, their porches empty. The usual nighttime sounds, crickets, distant dogs barking, the hum of a passing car, were gone. Only the light remained. Then came the wind. It howled through the street like a storm out of nowhere, slamming tools off their hooks and knocking over a stack of tires near the door. Owen grabbed the edge of his workbench to stay upright. The lavender light grew brighter, almost blinding now. And then, through the wind and the glow, came a low hum that made the ground tremble beneath his boots. Owen stepped outside, shielding his eyes. Something massive was descending from the sky. A ship, sleek and silver, covered in markings that glowed faintly blue, was lowering itself into the open field just behind his garage. It didn't roar like a plane or a helicopter. It whispered, moving through the air with a quiet grace that felt both unnatural and beautiful. He should have run. Every instinct screamed at him to hide, to go back inside and lock the doors. But Owen couldn't move. His legs were rooted in place as the ship touched down. A section on its side split open, forming a ramp. A bright white light poured from within. And from that light, a figure stepped out. She was unlike anything Owen had ever seen. Tall and radiant, the woman walked with a fluid grace, her silver gown sparkling as if woven from starlight itself. Her skin was pale with a soft golden hue, and her hair floated gently around her head, shimmering like strands of sunlight underwater. Behind her, two armored guards followed silently, their weapons held across their chests, their faces hidden beneath smooth masks. The woman stopped, at the edge of the light, looking directly at him. "Owen Hartley," she said. Her voice was gentle but firm, carrying across the quiet like a breeze. "I am Queen Lyra of the Lumerian people. We have been watching your world. And you." Owen blinked. "Me?" was all he could say. His voice sounded too small, too human, in the presence of such a being. He looked down at his stained jeans, his oil-smeared shirt, and then back at the glowing queen. You must have the wrong guy. Lyra stepped closer, her expression softening. There is no mistake. We've seen the way you live. You repair without charging those who cannot pay. You listen when no one else will. You choose kindness when it costs you time, effort, and comfort. In our tradition, such a soul is rare, and when we find one, we offer a gift. Owen opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Lyra raised her hand. In her palm hovered a crystal unlike any stone he had ever seen. It pulsed with gentle light, shifting through colors as though it breathed. One wish, she said. Anything you desire. Wealth. Power. Knowledge beyond human imagination. Choose wisely, Owen Hartley of Earth. For some wishes carry consequences even I cannot undo. The wind quieted. The hum faded. Time itself seemed to pause. Owen stared at the glowing crystal, his heart pounding. This couldn't be real. And yet, everything about it felt more real than anything he'd ever known. He had no idea what to wish for. Not yet. Owen stood frozen, the soft glow of the crystal casting shifting colors across his face. The quiet hum of the ship had faded, but his thoughts were louder than ever. Queen Lyra watched him calmly as if she had done this many times before, but there was a flicker in her eyes, something that didn't match the calm. Doubt? Curiosity? Owen couldn't tell. The moment stretched longer than it should have, and finally he found his voice. Why me? He asked. I'm just a mechanic. Lyra gave a small, sad smile. That's exactly why. It's never about what you do, Owen. It's about how you do it. When no one is watching, when there's no reward, that's what we see. That's what matters to us. She motioned slightly, and the air around them shimmered like a heat wave. Suddenly, images appeared floating all around the field, each one like a window into another life. In one, Owen stood in a massive glass tower wearing a sharp suit and speaking to world leaders. In another, he was surrounded by machines, flying cars, healing devices, things Earth had never dreamed of. Another vision showed him standing in a room full of gold, endless stacks of wealth reaching the ceiling. All of this could be yours, Lyra said, her voice soft but steady. A future of power, comfort, and brilliance. You could lift your world out of its struggles, end disease, bring peace, all with a single wish. Owen turned slowly, taking it all in. It was overwhelming. The possibilities weren't just impressive, they were tempting. For someone who had fixed broken fan belts and patched rusty fuel tanks his whole life. These visions felt like stepping into another universe. He took a shaky breath. And I could really have any of this? Yes, Lyra replied. With a word, the Lumerian gift of the wish crystal is absolute. But the choice must come from your heart. Owen looked at the image of himself in the glass tower, then at the golden room, then back at Lyra. She stood at the center of it all, the only thing that didn't look like an illusion. And that's when he saw it again, that flicker. Not of power, but of sadness. The kind of sadness that doesn't shout. The kind that hides behind a smile. What about you? He asked suddenly, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Lyra blinked, clearly caught off guard. What do you mean? You give wishes, Owen said, stepping closer. But do you ever get any? There was a long pause. I am the keeper of the crystal, she said carefully. It's not my place to receive. Owen frowned. That doesn't sound very fair. Lyra lowered her gaze for the first time. It's the way it has always been. I serve my people. I serve the balance, I give, I do not ask. That sounds lonely. She looked up, and in that moment, all her royal grace fell away. Her glowing dress still shimmered, and the crown still floated just above her head, but she looked human now. Tired. Worn. Not from age, but from carrying the weight of everyone else's dreams. Owen's mind began to spin. The wealth, the power, the knowledge, it all felt hollow now. Impressive, sure. Useful, maybe. But none of it felt right. Not for him. Not when the person offering the gift seemed like the one who needed something, most of all. "I know what I want," he said finally, his voice steady. Lyra tilted her head, a bit cautious. "You're certain?" "Yes," Owen said, nodding. "But I don't want a mansion or superpowers or spaceships. I want you." The words hung in the air like electricity. Lyra's eyes widened. "Me?" "Not as a queen," Owen said quickly. "Not as some alien miracle. Just as you. I want a chance to know who you really are. Behind all the light and rules and responsibility. You've watched me, right? Now I want to watch you. Not to own or to control. Just to understand." The guards, silent until now, suddenly moved. Their hands tightening around their weapons, one of them stepped forward. "This is not allowed." But before he could say more, the second guard raised a hand. "Actually," he said, pulling out a glowing tablet from his armor, "there's nothing in the code that forbids this type of wish." Owen raised his hands a little. "Hey, I'm not asking for anything dangerous." Lyra looked stunned. Not just surprised, but genuinely shaken. "No one has ever asked that before," she whispered. "In all the centuries, no one has ever wished for me." The crystal pulsed in the air, glowing brighter, reflecting colors from Owen's eyes. For the first time, Queen Lyra seemed unsure of what to do. Then a deep, booming voice echoed across the sky. This wish must be tested. High above them, a fleet of Lumarian ships appeared, casting long shadows over the town. The field was suddenly filled with beams of light and strange figures in long robes, their faces hidden behind metallic veils. The high chamber had arrived. The tallest among them pointed a silver staff at Owen. "The wish is not forbidden, but it is unprecedented. If this human truly wants the queen, he must prove he is worthy." Lyra stepped forward. "Enough." The wish was made with honesty. But the chamber member didn't budge. "Then let him face the 3 trials. If he passes, the wish shall stand." Owen looked at Lyra, who nodded slowly. "I can't interfere," she said, "but I'll be waiting." As the light around him changed again and the first trial began to form, Owen felt no fear, just curiosity, and maybe for the first time in his life, hope that what he chose might change more than just his own life. The light around Owen twisted and spun until the grassy field vanished. When it cleared, he stood in a huge circular chamber made entirely of clear crystal. Stars shimmered beyond the transparent walls and moving patterns of alien constellations danced in the air like fireflies. In the center of the room stood a strange machine, unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked part puzzle, part living thing, floating pieces of glowing metal constantly shifting shape, changing rhythm like a heartbeat. From the shadows, the voice of a high chamber elder echoed, "This is the first trial, the trial of intellect. Solve the puzzle of the shifting stars. You have 1 hour." Owen approached the machine carefully. It hummed softly, and each moving piece reacted to his presence. He reached out, then pulled back unsure. He wasn't a genius, he didn't build computers or study alien physics, but something about the machine reminded him of something familiar. He studied how the glowing symbols moved. It wasn't random. It was like timing chains in an engine, or gears in a transmission. Patterns within patterns. He crouched down, pulled a small screwdriver from his back pocket. He had forgotten it was still there, and gently touched one of the machine's parts. It clicked softly, and the rest of the mechanism adjusted slightly. A grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. He knew this. Not because he understood alien tech, but because he understood how things worked when they were broken. For the next 20 minutes, he worked steadily, not trying to control the machine but understand it, just like he would with a tricky engine. Piece by piece, he found rhythm, flow, and connection. When he slid the final segment into place, The whole device lit up in gold and stopped moving. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. The walls glowed gently and the voice returned. Trial 1. Passed. Owen let out a deep breath and stood up, stretching his back. Before he could celebrate, the chamber dissolved around him. A second environment took its place. This one a battlefield. The air smelled of smoke and something sharp. The ground was rough and blackened, and in the distance, strange, shadowy creatures howled. The sky was blood red, torn with lightning. The second trial, the voice said. The trial of courage. Face your deepest fear. Owen looked around, trying to stay calm. He waited for some monster to charge at him. Instead, the world around him shifted again. He now stood in a luxurious house. The walls were polished wood. Sunlight poured in through wide windows and he could hear laughter somewhere. There were machines, servants, a long table filled with food. It was peaceful, but not right. He wandered through the halls and noticed something strange. Everywhere he looked, he saw himself, but older, richer, colder. One version ignored a man crying on the street. Another dismissed a child asking for help. Yet another version of him barked orders at workers like they were beneath him. A quiet voice whispered in his mind, "This is your future, if you forget who you are." Owen sat down in the middle of the hallway, heart heavy. "I don't want this," he said out loud. "I'd rather be a nobody than someone who forgets where he came from." The world around him rippled and dissolved. The battlefield returned, but now it was quiet. The voice returned, this time softer. True courage is knowing who you are even when the world tries to change you. Trial 2. Passed. Before Owen could react, alarms began to blare, not from the trial, but from the real world. The light twisted violently. Suddenly he was back on the field. Ships overhead were moving fast, too fast. A guard ran toward Lyra, shouting something Owen couldn't hear. Then came the roar of engines and the sharp glow of red light in the sky. The Dusk Marauders had arrived. Lyra turned to Owen, her calm completely gone. "You have to leave. This battle isn't yours." Owen shook his head. "I made a wish. I'm not leaving now." The guards tried to argue, but Lyra stopped them. "Let him speak." Owen looked up at the alien fleet. Their ships were circling, trying to scan the Lumerian vessel. "They're not attacking yet. They want your tech. They're scanning for weaknesses." Lyra nodded grimly. "They'll steal anything they can't destroy." "I have an idea," Owen said, and for the first time, he sounded like he belonged in command. "What if we give them what they want, but make it look worthless?" He rushed inside with the Lumerian engineers. To them, alien engines were sacred machines, built with elegance and complex design. But to Owen, they were just machines. Pipes, circuits, energy channels, all things that could be made to look broken. Using his knowledge, he helped reroute power, jam signals, and create false system failures. It was the biggest repair job he'd ever done, except this time he was pretending to fail. As the Marauders closed in, their scanners picked up what they thought was a crippled ship, one not worth fighting for. They began to retreat. But then, something changed. Lyra's ship shuddered as a new signal arrived. A second wave, bigger, stronger, and ready to attack. "The main fleet," Lyra said, eyes wide. "This was never just a raid, it's an invasion." Owen's stomach dropped. His trick had bought them minutes, not victory. "I haven't even finished the last trial," he said. Lyra turned to him, her voice full of emotion. "You're in it now, Owen. The last trial isn't about puzzles or fear, it's about compassion. And that's the one trial no one can prepare you for." Outside, the sky burned with approaching war. Owen looked at Lyra and knew the real test had begun. The sky above Everdell turned red with light as the invasion began. Ships from the Dusk Marauders filled the air like a swarm of hornets, their engines roaring and weapons glowing. People ran from their homes, looking up at the terrifying sight, unaware of the battle that had already started. In the center of it all stood Owen, inside the heart of Queen Lyra's ship, surrounded by glowing panels and buzzing machinery. He wasn't a soldier or a leader. He was still just a mechanic. But something had changed in him. Lyra stood beside him, her face pale but determined. The energy wave they've triggered is more than just a weapon. It's designed to rewrite the DNA of every human on Earth, turn your species into something like them. No choice, no warning, just change. Owen stepped forward, scanning the readings on the ship's core. The wave was approaching fast. If it hit, everything would be different. Not just technology or government, but people. Their emotions, their thoughts, their very nature. He clenched his jaw. There's still time, he said. We can redirect the energy. Lyra shook her head. We're not strong enough. Not without risking the entire ship. You'll die, Owen. Maybe, he replied, already pulling tools from his belt. But maybe I won't have to. Owen's mind raced. Energy worked like a current. It needed direction, a place to flow. If he could reroute the pulse, channel it safely, then maybe, just maybe, he could stop it without destroying everything. He remembered something his dad used to say while fixing old engines. Every surge needs a ground. As explosions rocked the ship, Owen worked furiously. He climbed under consoles, rewired conduits, and redirected the ship's power grid into something new, something Earth-like, a grounding system for star-born energy. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't how the Lumerians would have done it, but it worked. Lyra watched him with awe. You're changing the ship, she whispered, not with tech, with instinct. He looked up briefly. Not instinct, just experience. I've spent my life fixing things that other people gave up on. Maybe this is the same. Suddenly, the core began to glow brighter. The ship trembled as the energy waves slammed into the atmosphere. But instead of scattering across Earth, the pulse hit the ship's new engine grid and exploded in a brilliant ribbon of light that arched across the sky, stretching between the invading fleet, Earth, and Lyra's vessel. The ship stopped moving. In the glow of the ribbon, something incredible happened. The invading fleet began to shimmer. Their harsh black metal softened, glowing with the same light that danced through Lyra's hair. Symbols appeared along their hulls, ancient, beautiful, and familiar. On the main screen, a figure appeared. An older man dressed in robes that matched Lyra's style stared at her with wide eyes. I know that light, he said, voice trembling. I know you. Lyra stepped forward, shocked. Who are you? I am Talon, he said. High Lord of the Dusk Empire. But before that, I was your brother. A stunned silence filled the ship. Lyra's lips parted and her glow dimmed slightly as tears welled in her eyes. I was told I was an orphan, found in a cradle of light. You were taken during the collapse, Talon said. We searched for you across galaxies, but we became something else. Cold, hungry, and now, he didn't need to finish. The ribbon of light wasn't just energy, it was memory. It had shown the Dusk Marauders what they had lost, who they had been, and in that shared connection the invasion became something else. A reunion. But peace always comes with a price. The wave, though redirected, had overloaded the core. Sparks flew from the panels, and the deck began to shake violently. Owen was thrown backward as alarm screamed. The ship was going to collapse from within. No, Lyra cried, running to him. Her hands began to glow, her remaining powers sparking like lightning. If I use all my strength, I can save you. Owen coughed, barely able to stand. But if you do, you'll lose everything. Your powers, your title. She knelt beside him, eyes locked on his. Then I'll finally be free. She placed her hand on his chest. Light poured from her like a waterfall, wrapping around him and pulling him out of danger. The ship exploded with brightness and everything went white. When Owen opened his eyes, he was back in his garage. The ceiling looked the same. The smell of oil was still there. But something had changed. Sitting beside his workbench was Lyra, Except, now she looked entirely human. No floating hair, no glowing skin, just a woman in jeans and a jacket, holding a coffee cup and staring at a car manual upside down. He sat up, groaning. "You're reading that the wrong way." Lyra smiled and turned the book right side up. Still learning. Outside the garage, Everdell was transformed. Between the houses were glowing gardens. Children, both human and Lumarian, played together, their laughter echoing through the streets. Engineers from both worlds worked side by side, building machines that blended Earth mechanics and Lumarian energy. A monument stood in the field where the ship once landed, an old wrench suspended in light. Owen and Lyra walked toward it hand in hand. "You really gave it all up?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "I didn't give it up, I traded it, for a life where I'm more than a symbol, where I get to choose." As they reached the monument, Owen smiled. "So, want to learn how to fix an engine?" "Only if you want to learn how to fix a galaxy," Lyra replied, and together, they stepped into a new world. Not one of endless power, but one built on understanding, choice, and a wish that dared to be different.